I walked into my own backyard carrying a pitcher of iced tea and found my wife laughing with Kyle Porter, my secretary. His hand rested on her lower back like it belonged there. Sabrina's voice carried across the patio, clear and cutting. I can't wait to be done living like a caretaker, married to a man who refuses to grow. I froze. The pitcher felt heavy in my hands. Kyle saw me first, his expression shifting from confident to guilty in half a second. Sabrina turned, noticed me standing there, and didn't even look ashamed. Instead, she straightened her shoulders. "Harlan, we need to talk," she said, her voice steady. "Looks like you've already done plenty of talking," I replied quietly. She shook her head. "This isn't working anymore. I'm moving out tonight." Kyle stepped back, but not far enough. I set the pitcher down on the outdoor table, my hands shaking. 23 years of marriage, and this was how it ended. In my own backyard, with a man I'd hired and mentored standing there like he'd won something. I walked back inside without another word. Behind me, I heard Kyle's car engine starting. The sound followed me all the way to the kitchen. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. My name is Harlan Brooks. I'm 46 years old, and until that afternoon, I thought I had a solid life. I worked as a project manager at a mid-sized construction firm in Columbus, Ohio. Nothing flashy, but I was good at my job. Reliable. Steady. The kind of guy who showed up early and stayed late when the team needed it. I'd been with Sabrina since college. We met in a library during finals week. She was studying business. I was studying engineering. We got married young, bought a house in the suburbs, and built what I thought was a partnership. Kyle entered my life 3 years ago. He was fresh out of school, eager, and I saw potential in him. I recommended him for a promotion to be my assistant. I invited him to our house for dinner. Sabrina always made extra food, and Kyle seemed grateful for the inclusion. Now I sat alone at my kitchen table, staring at 2 wine glasses missing from the cabinet and an empty space in the closet where Sabrina's clothes used to hang. The house felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything warm and left only walls. I trusted them both. That was my mistake. The first night alone was the hardest. I tried to cook something simple, just pasta and sauce from a jar, but I couldn't bring myself to eat. The silence in the house pressed against my ears. Every creak of the floorboards reminded me that no one else was coming home. I avoided the bedroom. It still smelled like her shampoo, that coconut scent she'd used for years. Instead, I grabbed a blanket and stretched out on the couch. Sleep didn't come easy. When it finally did, it was shallow and broken. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the glow of my phone. A text from Sabrina. "We should finalize the separation like adults. No need to make this messy. Like adults." As if what happened in the backyard was adult behavior. As if betrayal could be handled with paperwork and polite conversation. I turned off my phone and stared at the ceiling until morning light started filtering through the curtains. My chest felt heavy, like someone had placed a stone there and forgotten to remove it. I didn't cry. I couldn't. The grief was too physical for tears. 3 days later, Sabrina texted again, asking to meet at a cafe downtown. I agreed, mostly because I knew avoiding her wouldn't change anything. She arrived 10 minutes late, looking refreshed. Her hair was different, styled in a way I'd never seen before. She wore new earrings. "Thanks for coming," she said, sitting across from me. I nodded but didn't speak. "Look, I know this is hard, but I need you to understand. I never felt seen in our marriage. I needed passion, excitement. You were always so steady. Boring, honestly." The words landed like punches, but I kept my face neutral. "I want the house," she continued. "You can keep the savings." "I think that's fair." Fair. Nothing about this was fair. "I need time to think," I said quietly. Her confidence wavered. She'd expected anger, yelling, maybe even begging. My silence unsettled her more than any outburst could have. "Fine," she said, standing. "But don't take too long, Harlan. I'm trying to move forward." She left, and I sat there with my untouched coffee, feeling something shift inside me. Not anger. Something colder. Clear. The next morning, I called a lawyer. His name was Vincent Shaw, and he came recommended by a coworker who'd been through a difficult divorce years ago. Vincent's office was small but organized, filled with case files and law books that looked actually used. "Tell me everything," he said, pulling out a legal pad. I explained the situation, keeping my voice even. Vincent listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "First thing, document everything. Every text, every email, every conversation. Don't react emotionally, even when it's hard. Don't surrender assets without negotiation. People think divorces are won in courtrooms, but most are won in the preparation." He paused, studying me. "The quiet ones who hurt don't always stay hurt. You have more power than you think." I left his office with a folder of documents to organize and a strange sense of purpose. For the first time since the backyard, I felt like I wasn't drowning. I was planning. Returning to work was harder than I expected. Word had spread fast. Coworkers who used to chat with me in the break room now offered awkward smiles and quick exits. Kyle avoided me completely, taking lunch at different times and parking on the opposite side of the lot. What made it worse was that Sabrina started visiting the office. She'd never done that before, but now she appeared twice a week, meeting Kyle outside or in the lobby. She wanted people to see them together. The humiliation burned, but I kept my head down. My chest tightened every time I heard laughter from the hallway, wondering if it was about me. Then I heard something that made my stomach drop. Sabrina had been offered a consulting role at the company. Someone in management thought her business background could help with client relations. The real reason was obvious. Kyle had pushed for it. I sat at my desk, staring at project plans, and realized something important. This wasn't just personal anymore. This was professional. And if there was one thing I knew how to do, it was build something carefully and watch it stand. Sabrina officially moved in with Kyle 2 weeks after the backyard conversation. I knew because mutual friends started sending me messages. Awkward, sympathetic texts that somehow made everything worse. "Just wanted you to know we're thinking of you. Stay strong, man. You deserve better." Then came the social media posts. I didn't seek them out, but people forwarded them anyway, thinking I should know. Photos of Sabrina and Kyle at restaurants I couldn't afford. Weekend trips to beaches. Captions about new beginnings and finally living authentically. Each image felt like a small knife, precise and deliberate. I stopped opening the messages. I muted conversations. But the damage was already done. The pain had settled into something heavier, a numb weight that followed me everywhere. One night, I sat in my living room and realized something. I wasn't grieving Sabrina anymore. I was grieving the version of myself who believed everything was fine. That man was gone, and I wasn't sure I wanted him back. At work, Kyle's behavior started changing. He became bolder, taking credit for projects I'd managed. In meetings, he spoke over me, presenting ideas we developed together as his own. Management noticed his initiative and praised him. Mistakes started piling up, though. Small things at first. Missed deadlines. Incorrect estimates sent to clients. Kyle relied on confidence instead of competence, and Sabrina encouraged it. I overheard them once in the parking lot. "You need to be more assertive," she told him. "Stop letting people walk over you." I kept my head down and documented everything. Every email Kyle sent with wrong information. Every meeting where he claimed my work. Every client complaint that came back because of his errors. I didn't say anything to management. I didn't have to. The pattern was building itself, visible to anyone paying attention. The storm was gathering, slow and inevitable. I just had to wait. 3 months after Sabrina left, I had my lowest moment. I was sitting in my car outside the house late at night, unable to make myself go inside. The darkness beyond the windshield felt easier than walking through that front door into more emptiness. I sat there for an hour, maybe longer, just breathing. Then something shifted. I realized I wasn't grieving Sabrina. I was grieving the man I'd been with her. The one who never pushed back, never demanded respect, never asked for more. That version of me had died in the backyard, and honestly, he deserved to. I didn't want to return to being him. I wanted to become someone different. Someone stronger. Not loud or aggressive, just solid in a way that couldn't be shaken. I started the car and drove home. This time, I walked inside without hesitation. The next morning, I signed up for new professional certifications. Project management had always been my strength, but I'd let my credentials stagnate. Now I registered for advanced courses in construction management and leadership training. I started walking every morning before work. Nothing intense, just 30 minutes around the neighborhood. The routine helped. My mind felt clearer. I began sleeping earlier, waking up naturally instead of dragging myself out of bed. I cooked real meals again, simple but decent. The healing was slow, unglamorous, and steady. No one at work noticed the changes at first. I wasn't trying to be noticed. I was rebuilding myself piece by piece, the same way I'd build a project. Foundation first. Structure second. Details last. Vincent called to update me on the divorce proceedings. Everything was moving forward. Sabrina's lawyer had tried pushing for the house again, but Vincent held firm. "She's getting desperate," he said. "That's good for us." I thanked him and hung up. Desperation meant mistakes. I knew how to wait. 4 months in, I finally cleared out the last of Sabrina's belongings. Things she'd left behind, claiming she'd pick them up later, but never did. I didn't throw anything away or destroy it. That would have meant I still cared enough to be angry. Instead, I packed everything carefully into boxes. Her books, the decorative pillows she'd insisted we needed, framed photos from vacations we'd taken. I loaded them into my truck and drove to her sister's house across town. I left the boxes on a porch, knocked once, and walked away before anyone answered. No explanation. Just her things returned. The silence of that gesture felt more powerful than anything I could have said. As I drove home, I felt lighter. Not happy exactly, but free in a way I hadn't experienced in years. That night, I slept in the bedroom for the first time since she left. The coconut smell was finally gone. A week later, I received an unexpected call. A recruiter from Dalton Construction, one of our competitors, wanted to meet. They'd been watching my project outcomes for months and were impressed with my work. "We think you'd be a great fit for our team," she said. "Would you be open to a conversation?" I agreed to meet, curious but not committed. Dalton was bigger than my current company, with better resources and a reputation for treating employees well. The meeting happened at a quiet restaurant. The recruiter, a sharp woman named Patricia, laid out an opportunity one hadn't expected. Department leadership. More autonomy. A significant pay increase. "We've seen what you're capable of," she said. "We want someone who builds things right the first time." I didn't commit immediately. I thanked her, took her card, and told her I needed time to think. But driving home, something stirred inside me. Not excitement exactly. Something calmer and more powerful. Possibility. Back at my current company, things continued falling apart for Kyle. A major contract he'd been managing collapsed because of miscommunication with a client. The project was one I'd started, but Kyle had taken over after I stepped back to focus on other work. The client was furious. They threatened to pull future business. Management called an emergency meeting, and Kyle stammered through explanations that didn't hold up under questioning. Sabrina tried to help him, offering advice from her consulting position, but she had no real understanding of construction management. Her suggestions made things worse. I watched from the sidelines, saying nothing. Other team members started noticing the pattern. Kyle's confidence had carried him initially, but competence always won eventually. Tension built in the office. Leadership began scrutinizing Kyle's decisions more carefully. The cracks in his facade were showing, and everyone could see them. I kept working steadily, delivering my projects on time and under budget. The contrast was becoming obvious. 2 weeks later, Patricia called again. Dalton Construction was ready to make a formal offer. Department leadership position. 30% salary increase. Full benefits. Respect. I read through the offer letter 3 times, making sure I understood every detail. This wasn't just a job change. This was a transformation. I called Patricia back and accepted. My voice was calm, but inside, something clicked into place. I was moving forward, not because I was running from something, but because I was running towards something better. I didn't announce it immediately. I wanted to time it right. I drafted my resignation letter that night, keeping it professional and brief. No anger. No accusations. Just a simple statement that I was pursuing other opportunities. The silence would speak louder than any explanation. I submitted my resignation on a Tuesday morning. I walked into my manager's office, handed him the letter, and waited while he read it. His face fell. "Harlan, is this about Kyle?" "Because if there's an issue, it's not about anyone," I interrupted gently. "It's just time for me to move on." Word spread through the office within an hour. Coworkers stopped by my desk shocked. Some seemed genuinely sad to see me go. Others looked confused, like they couldn't understand why the steady, reliable Harlan Brooks would leave. Kyle's reaction was the most telling. I saw panic flash across his face when he heard. He'd been coasting on the foundation I'd built, and now that foundation was walking out the door. Sabrina called me that afternoon. I didn't answer. My last day was quiet and dignified. I packed my personal items into a single box, said goodbye to the people who mattered, and walked out. The parking lot had never looked so bright. Starting at Dalton Construction felt like breathing fresh air after years in a stuffy room. The team welcomed me without baggage or whispers. They knew my work, not my personal drama. My first week, I proposed new efficiency strategies for project tracking. The leadership team actually listened. They asked questions, considered my suggestions, and implemented changes based on my input. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. Not because the work was dramatically different, but because I was respected. My opinions mattered. My experience was valued. The team I managed responded well to my approach. I didn't micromanage or demand loyalty. I just treated people like professionals and expected quality work. They delivered. Within 2 months, we completed a major project ahead of schedule and under budget. The client was thrilled. My supervisor called me into his office to personally thank me. "You're exactly what we needed," he said. I nodded, accepting the compliment without false modesty. For the first time in a long time, I believed it. Meanwhile, Kyle's situation at my old company continued deteriorating. I heard through former coworkers who still kept in touch. More contracts were slipping. Clients were complaining. Leadership had lost confidence in him. Sabrina was growing resentful. The exciting life she'd imagined wasn't materializing. Kyle wasn't getting promoted. Their dream apartment was stretching their finances thin. She'd left me for passion and excitement, but what she got was instability and stress. Kyle started working longer hours, trying to prove himself, but effort without competence only produces exhausted failure. Sabrina blamed him for not providing the lifestyle she expected. Their relationship, built on betrayal and fantasy, was cracking under the weight of reality. I didn't take pleasure in their struggles. I was too busy building something real. 6 months after I left, my former coworkers told me Kyle and Sabrina had to move. The expensive apartment was too much. They'd relocated to a cheaper rental across town, smaller and older. Sabrina had started blaming Kyle openly. People at the office heard arguments over the phone. She accused him of ruining her life, or not being the man she thought he was. Kyle, to his credit, seemed to finally understand what he'd lost. Not me as a friend, but the stability I represented. The steady reliability that Sabrina had called boring was exactly what kept life from falling apart. Their finances were crumbling. Credit card debt, late payments, the kind of pressure that destroys relationships faster than any external problem. I focused on my own life. I'd started taking weekend trips. Nothing extravagant, just drives through Ohio countryside, visits to small towns, time alone to think and heal. The peace I felt was genuine. 8 months after I joined Dalton, my old company announced major layoffs. The construction industry was tightening, and they needed to cut costs. Kyle was let go. I heard about it from 3 different people within hours. His performance had been too poor to justify keeping him, especially with leadership already questioning his abilities. Sabrina, who relied entirely on Kyle's position to maintain her consulting role, was released 2 weeks later. Her position had always been unnecessary, a favor extended because of Kyle. Without him, there was no reason to keep her. They had no savings, no backup plan, no emergency fund. The phones that used to buzz with social plans went silent. Friends who'd celebrated their authentic life disappeared when times got hard. They finally understood what my steady, boring reliability had actually meant. It meant security. It meant having a foundation when storms came. Reality had arrived, and it was unforgiving. Sabrina and Kyle started applying for jobs everywhere. I didn't know this initially, but I learned later from mutual connections who watched their desperation grow. Their resumes told a story of instability, short tenures, poor outcomes, projects that had failed under their management. Employers saw red flags immediately. Doors kept closing. Interviews led nowhere. The job market, especially in construction, was small enough that reputations mattered. Word had spread about Kyle's performance issues and Sabrina's questionable hiring at the previous company. They were learning a harsh lesson. Consequences follow you. Choices compound. Betrayal doesn't just hurt others. It eventually comes back around. I occasionally wondered if they ever talked about me during those difficult months. If they ever acknowledged that the man they discarded had been exactly what they needed. But mostly, I didn't think about them at all. I was too busy living a life I'd built for myself. A life with integrity, respect, and peace. 10 months after I started at Dalton Construction, something unexpected happened. 2 applications landed on my desk for open positions in my department. One from Kyle Porter. One from Sabrina Brooks. They'd applied to my company without realizing I was now the department director overseeing hiring decisions. HR had forwarded their applications to me as part of the standard review process. I sat at my desk, staring at their names on the screen. My first instinct wasn't anger or satisfaction. It was something closer to tired recognition. They'd been invited for interviews before anyone realized the connection. HR had scheduled them for the same afternoon, back to back. I could have recused myself, passed the interviews to someone else. But I didn't. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted to handle this with the same dignity I'd maintained throughout everything else. I confirmed the interview times and prepared my questions. Standard, professional, fair. They were about to learn that dignity always wins. The interview day arrived. Kyle came first. He walked into the conference room and froze when he saw me sitting at the table with 2 HR representatives. His face went pale. Harlan, Kyle, I replied evenly. Please have a seat. He sat down slowly, his confidence completely gone. I asked standard interview questions about his experience, his project management approach, his professional goals. His answers were vague, uncertain. He couldn't meet my eyes. Sabrina's interview was 30 minutes later. She walked in and stopped in the doorway, her expression shifting from confusion to shock to something like fear. Hello, Sabrina, I said calmly. Thank you for coming. She sat without speaking. I asked her about her professional background, her qualifications for the position, her understanding of the construction industry. Her answers revealed what I already knew. She wasn't qualified. She'd been carried by connections, not competence. I thanked them both for their time. Professional. Not even. But firm. No sarcasm. No anger. Just clear-eyed dignity. After the interviews, I returned to my office and wrote my hiring recommendations. 2 sentences for each candidate. Kyle Porter, not suitable for the position. Lacks demonstrated competence and reliability. Sabrina Brooks, not suitable for the position. Insufficient relevant experience and qualifications. I submitted the recommendations to HR. No commentary. No personal history. Just professional assessment based on merit. The truth stood on its own. 2 days later, Kyle and Sabrina received formal rejection emails. Standard corporate language thanking them for their interest and wishing them well in their job search. I heard later that they sat together in Kyle's car after receiving the emails, silent and defeated. This was their lowest point. Not because I'd been cruel, but because they finally understood what they'd thrown away. They'd chosen excitement over stability, passion over partnership, fantasy over reality. And reality had won. 3 months later, I visited my sister's house for Sunday dinner. Her family had been my support system through everything, never judging, always present. My niece, 10 years old and relentlessly honest, asked me a question while we cleared dishes. Uncle Harlan, are you happier now than before? I paused, considering the question seriously. Yes, I said. I really am. And I meant it. I wasn't just surviving. I was centered, calm whole. The weight that had pressed on my chest for months was gone. I'd rebuilt myself into someone stronger, not through anger or revenge, but through patience and integrity. I didn't think about Sabrina with pain anymore. Just distance. She was part of my past, not my present. My sister smiled at me from across the kitchen. "You look good, Harlan." Really good. I felt good. Better than good. I felt like myself, but a version I actually respected. One afternoon, 6 months after the interviews, a message appeared on my phone. Sabrina's name. "I hope you're well." 5 words. No apology. No explanation. Just a weak attempt at connection that meant nothing. I read the message twice, then smiled. Not with triumph or bitterness. Just peace. I deleted it. Outside my office window, the afternoon sun was warm and bright. I had a project meeting in 20 minutes, dinner plans with colleagues later, and a weekend trip to a state park planned for Saturday. My life was full. Not because I destroyed anyone or sought revenge, but because I'd chosen to build something real while others built castles of sand. I closed my laptop, grabbed my jacket, and walked outside into the sunlight. The story wasn't about them anymore. It never really had been. It was about me. And I'd won. Not through anger or destruction, but through dignity, patience, and the quiet strength of simply refusing to break. They'd left me for something exciting. I'd become something better. That was victory enough.